I'm able to recognize when things have gone quite south of what I'm, let's say, particularly used to in general throughout all my years of playing piano. So I'm just able to get a grasp of that and turn it around before it gets way too late. For example, if you think about a boat that's, what do you call it? Tethered to the
Floating?
shore.
Oh,
No,
okay. Okay.
you know how a boat is
Yeah,
anchored
yeah.
to the whatever
I know.
place. Yeah.
Okay.
Before the boat completely sails off and is not visible, I think I'm able to bring it back and tether it back. And
Okay. And the
each time,
analogy,
though,
the
it's
boat is
more
your technique,
difficult.
yeah?
The boat is my technique and my relationship to uh, performance and playing in general.
Right.
And when it's anchored and staying put, that's kind of when we're at our prime and when we're feeling at our best. But it very easily just hooks off and starts sailing away. But the trick is to catch it before you lose sight of it, I think.
Right. Yeah. Well, a lot of musicians talk about maintenance
Hmm.
and being in maintenance mode. If let's say they've done a lot of practicing at some point in their lives and they got to a level of proficiency, and then it's maintenance in terms of keeping that level there, but not necessarily pushing it further.
Hmm.
Um,
I don't
and
believe in maintenance.
you don't believe in maintenance?
No.
Tell me
Uh,
more.
I don't believe in maintenance because I don't think there is such thing as just coasting. You're either making tiny improvements or major improvements, however much that is, or it's kind of fading.
Okay.
That's just how I view it, and that's my experience with it. I've never had success just coasting and just maintaining, whether it's a technique or a piece of music, my relationship with it, it's constantly just in flux.
How does that relate back to the boat?
How does that relate? Well, the boat is never, it's not on land, it's not fixed. It's always kind of,
Okay,
shifting
so it's
around.
either, so the technique is either, let's just, I mean, it spreads further than just technique, but if we're just talking about technique for a second,
Yeah.
so the technique starts to slide south and then you have to bring it up north,
Yeah. You have to
or
replace things, you have to replace the rope, you have to replace certain leaks. You can't just leave that boat there for 200 years. I mean, not to say that we, just to make an example of it, and not expect anything to deteriorate and just maintain just by leaving it there.
I
I
guess,
guess
I
that's
guess the
what it
main,
is, though. Maintenance is patching things up and
yeah, I think when people say they're in maintenance mode, I think it means like, kind of like what you were saying, like you have your technique at, a certain level and you practice enough to keep it at that level and not necessarily push it further. Like, you and I have a certain level of technique. If we wanted to, if we dedicated, 12 hours a day to shedding, we could take it further. If we completely, stopped practicing, it would obviously go down. So you kind of find, I guess the maintenance mode means you find that amount of time you need to dedicate to practicing to keep the status quo, essentially.
right. Um, that totally makes sense to me. I just said I don't believe in maintenance because I don't believe in. I guess the most common use of the word from my perception is just, once you have the technique, you just do a little bit of work and it'll stay there. To be fair though, I've seen plenty of friends who I feel like they don't put that much effort into technique or maintaining a certain aspect of their performance, but they're so effortless in it that it just comes to them naturally. But for me personally, I always feel like it's either going down or coming up. Yeah,
Yeah, usually feels down for me.
yeah, me
Just
too.
in general, it's just constantly going down.